So what's going on, guys? My name is MrDalekJD, and Zombie Chronicles has been out for quite a while now, but one map in particular, Ascension, holds a mystery which still hasn't been explained. So, we're going to be discussing one of Ascension's biggest mysteries, which Zombie Chronicles only goes to confuse the mystery even more so. And if you don't know what I'm talking about RICHTOFEN'S spacesuit. Now, if you aren't aware with what this is, when Ascension originally released in 2011, this was the first DLC map for Black Ops Zombies, and it brought us to the Russian Cosmodrome with our original crew of characters, which we now know as Ultimus. All of these characters looked pretty similar, if not exactly the same, except for Richtofen. He went from wearing his traditional Nazi outfit to a spacesuit. Now, we have no idea why he was in a spacesuit. There was no explanation for why he was wearing it, and the poster for Ascension only confused us even more so because the bold character on the left is wearing a spacesuit, but now we know from a recent Ascension radio that that character is actually Gersh. As we know, Ascension takes place in a Russian Cosmodrome, which is on Earth. It's not in any way in space, which is interesting, and we don't see a spacesuit again until, of course, on the moon, which, you know, makes a lot of sense. But we have Zombie Chronicles, and Richtofen over here is wearing his Nazi outfit rather than him wearing the spacesuit. That is a big change. Some reason Richtofen is not wearing it anymore, and there's a story reason as well, which we don't quite know, and that's what we're going to be investigating and exploring in this video. Jason Blundell has openly admitted that there is a lot of changes in the Zombie Chronicles remasters rather than keeping straight to the original. There are a few changes here and there which the most keen of zombie fans will notice, and there's obviously a reason for this taking place, and the most obvious reason is the fact that this is not happening in the same timeline as the original story. Just the fact that Gobblegums exist in these maps is enough incentive, in my opinion, that this is indefinitely taking place in a different reality. And we also have a lot of quotes bleeding in from other universes, which in some cases is in-game glitches, and that shouldn't be happening, but to me that does help to sweeten the deal, and this is a big thing which obviously sets apart the universe of World at War and Black Ops 1 apart from what we're playing right now. This could also just be a fracture, as all of Black Ops 3's universes were separate fractures where things happen sort of similar but a little bit different. Now, if we use the timeline to help us get a little bit of clarity with this, from Kino to Toten, the characters travel to Ascension via a lunar lander. This is something we don't see, but the characters don't need to be wearing a spacesuit in order to, you know, last that journey. We see our characters literally landing into the map on a lunar lander, which they took from Kino to Toten. So you can quite clearly see they don't need a spacesuit, and only Richtofen is wearing one in Black Ops 1. So now we need to go to the drawing board and ask ourselves, why was Richtofen wearing a spacesuit in the first place? The timeline doesn't mention anything about Richtofen visiting space during Kino and Ascension, which just makes things extremely weird, but there are a few theories that we can draw and maybe have some conclusions until we have a thorough answer from Treyarch on this mystery. The first one, and I feel this is probably the most likely out of any options we have to explain it, is that from Kino to Toten, Richtofen was probably extremely interested in going back to Griffin Station. Now, of course, travelling to Ascension, Richtofen knew full well what sort of things were happening during this time and the sort of things that they were developing in the facility itself. This is also the map where Richtofen recovers his diary, which is another reason why he came here. But another reason why he wanted to go to Ascension is because he probably assumed that the facility would hold the correct technology to allow him to teleport back to Griffin Station. To basically prepare for that, he probably put on the spacesuit, and then when it came to Ascension, he didn't need the spacesuit because he wasn't going to be sent to Griffin Station. But interestingly, if you look on the detailing of the spacesuit as well, it is not in a good way. You can clearly see there is so many blood smears over the suit as well as cuts to his face, and there's no explanation on why that happened, what caused that, so that's another mystery. But from the original timeline of Ascension, the characters teleport to Call of the Dead. Now, we don't see what they look like, but there's a possibility that Richtofen could still be in his spacesuit at that point in time, and then from then they get teleported into Shangri-La. But in the timeline of things, Shangri-La is its very own special thing, which takes place before we get to Kino de Toten. Now the zombie story and timeline gets extremely confusing because Shangri-La technically happens in the timeline before we get to Kino de Toten, but there's no mention whatsoever that from Darice they go to Shangri-La and then to Kino de Toten. So they could have gone to Shangri-La after they went to Call of the Dead, and it's just a time thing which puts it before, or they did actually go before and everything is muddled up. And if that's the case, then if they went to Shangri-La before, then that would explain why Richtofen doesn't have the spacesuit when we see him in Shangri-La in both Black Ops 1 and Black Ops 3. But then, going straight from the series of events from Call of the Dead straight to Moon, he still has the spacesuit on because of course we're now in space, so that would make sense, and that could explain why Richtofen always had the spacesuit in Black Ops 1. If the remasters are supposed to be following the same course of events with the same time, then things are not quite the same at all in this universe, in which I'd like to say it is potentially a fracture, if not just another universe where things are happening very similarly but differently at the same time. And in this Dr. Monty radio, Richtofen mentions how he was gone for a while, which is something we don't see in the original timeline, but we're seeing it in this. So let me play that for you now, and then we'll come back to discuss what this could mean.
Ascension, the Russian cosmodrome. I know Nikolai can be a bit down on Soviet technology, but the Ruskies really pulled one out of the bag that time. The Ascension group built a bloody great rocket. It actually worked a treat, too. Do you remember Gersh, old guy? He fought alongside you for a while. I think Richthofen was off somewhere at the time. Anyway, Gersh ran into a little bit of dimensional distortion. Honestly, why do you insist in meddling with stuff you don't understand? Of course, all their experiments just stirred the reality soup even more. You ended up fighting monkeys. Space monkeys at that. As I'm sure you know, monkeys are thieving little bastards. Give them half a chance and they'll nick anything that isn't nailed down. So, in answer to a question Richthofen once asked, I don't love a monkey.
As you can hear from that Monty radio seems to try to muddle things up even more by him saying that Gersh fought alongside us at once, that he was a bold man. Now that looks a lot like Richtofen in some aspects, but we know that can't be the case because we hear Richtofen physically when we're playing as a Black Ops 1 version, so we can't rule that at all. But what he does mention is that Richtofen was off doing something else for a little while, which is really intriguing, and that could perhaps be the one explanation we've actually had from Treyarch to explain why Richtofen has that spacesuit. Perhaps during Kino de Toten to Ascension, he did go off and do something involving maybe going back to Griffin Station, and that's why he has the spacesuit. But again, what it doesn't explain is why Richtofen doesn't have the spacesuit on inside of this new universe in Zombie Chronicles, and that is the big mystery, my friends. If you have any ideas as to how or why Richtofen isn't wearing a spacesuit within the Ascension remaster in Zombie Chronicles, let me know down below inside the comments section. But if you did enjoy this video in any capacity, it got your brain whirling from some of Treyarch's biggest mysteries, then be sure to drop a thumbs up on the video. If you enjoyed and want to see more content like this, there's more for you on screen now, and if you want to see more of this stuff more often, then make sure you subscribe as well, as I produce a lot of zombie content for you guys daily, and especially with the World War II Zombies hype, tomorrow I have an exclusive package from Sledgehammer Games which I'll be unboxing live on stream, so make sure you do not miss out on that by hitting subscribe and turning on notifications. But on screen now you'll find the last two uploads related to World War II Zombies, all the teasers we've gotten so far leading up to its unveil on the 20th. I hope you're excited as I am, and I'll be here tomorrow with that cool package. See you then.